Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 58th edition of Fan Fuel, the motorsport. Man, I messed that one
Yeah.
up. Welcome to the show that we do here every week that I rarely mess up the intro on. Fan Fuel Motorsports, the podcast where fans fuel talk about motorsports. I'm Alex Harrington, joined by Jared Bakaiza and Colton Cranmore. As always, Nathan is going to be off tonight. He, unfortunately, is in exam week for college, and we all remember how that was. If you went to college, exams weeks were kind of dumb because the schedules were poopy, and of course, trying to relearn 3 months of a class for one singular test is always horrible. So good luck on your exams, Nathan. I hope you're not watching tonight. You can catch up on this in the next week once you're done with exams. But for anyone else that is here tonight, we're going to be recapping some Talladega stuff. We're going to be patting the back of NASCAR and their decisions for the last couple of decades because there's some good ones. And then also, we're going to be talking about the state of the gas can here at Fan Fuel, what we are going to be doing probably for the next couple of weeks and months and so on. With that, let's get into this state of the gas can address. And Jared, we got something going on next week that you're really excited about.
Yes, we do. All right. So I think if everyone's watching the show, I think they know that we have a website, fanfuelmotorsports.com. Well, we just recently hit about 6 months, about half a year into the website itself. So we decided to kind of not a full rebrand, but we did kind of update the site to make it a little bit more cleaner and more professional as we've been going along. And we finally found someone that can actually understands website building, unlike me. Whenever I put that together, I just threw it together to the best of my knowledge. But shout out Seth Woolcock from In Between Media. He helped us rebrand the Fan Fuel site. So that is going to be launching next Wednesday. There's going to be a lot more articles and updated stuff on there. And now, since we have an idea on what we're doing, we had a meeting with him a couple days ago. We all are 100% on board. We have reasons to actually post some more stuff, so we will be getting that up on there. I know I have some World of Outlaw stuff up there. I'm going to have an article about Dover this upcoming weekend. I know Colton's got some stuff, Alex has got some stuff, and I'm sure Nathan's going to have some stuff. So definitely stay tuned next Wednesday for the new reveal of the new site, and from there on, it's just going to be full go.
Yeah. Awesome. We also have the Fan Fuel Discord up and running now. The Fan Fuel Pit Box. Our fans, you guys, are going to be called gas heads. That's what we will be referring to you as. We have the wide open chat where we talk all things racing. Gas Head Alley for fans to help with show topics and fan spotlight nomination, and then race day chats for all your motorsports, including local stuff. Anything you want to talk about will be in there.
Yeah, and that's just your standard Discord. I mean, we're gonna be on there as much as we can. We'd like to be doing all kinds of chatting for race day stuff. Like Colton said, for any motorsports, we've got threads on there for Xfinity Trucks Cup, Supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, and other endurance events like the Nürburgring 24-hour, Le Mans 24 hours, stuff like that that's coming up. And then we even have a section for local tracks on there as well. So anything that you have going on that you want your fellow gas heads to know about around you, you can say, hey, over here at, Port Royal, where Jared was this past week, there's going to be a modified race for $30,000 or something. Y'all guys should come check it out. And then that's a place where you can connect with fellow Fan Fuel Motorsports fans to get that done. And Colton said the interesting thing is we're going to have that Gas Head Alley thing. When we say you can nominate fans to be on there, that includes yourself. Basically, we want to hear from you guys what people that either from your personal life, from Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc., TikTok may have somebody on there you want to see, like, hey, I got this guy. Can you reach out to him? Do you want us to reach out to him so that we can have him on or her on as a fan spotlight? We are down for that. So we're going to be coming back on with some fan spotlights here in a couple weeks too. So we'll announce those. Jared, let's talk a little bit more about this website rebranding just before we move on.
It's just a little bit cleaner. It has a cleaner look to it. It looks a little bit more professional since we've been doing all this stuff. It's actually kind of like more easily accessible for everyone who goes on there. Like it's categorized a lot better. You can even search through different things with keywords and stuff that we learned how to use. So if you want to look up anything that pertains like Kyle Larson or something, if you search that, you can find every article that mentions him in there. We just learned a lot. Basically, we just learned a lot of things to make it look more up to date and with the current style of website branding. So we're definitely hoping to get some more stuff up on there. Like I said, I've been working on some things. I know Colton's been working on some things. Alex has been working on some things. So whenever you go up there, it's going to be fresh. There's going to be fresh articles, new things. And from there, you're just going to, hopefully we can start posting things like daily, even if it's like little miniature things or even like discussion articles. And we'll be posting that also on the Twitter for you to interact. And we'd love for everyone to share what we're posting on there so we can hopefully get some sponsors on there, and then the more sponsors we get, the more races we can attend and the more content we can give you.
Yeah, and not only that, we're free to take in any content that you want to put up there too. So we've got some fan articles that are already on the site and in the works to be put on the site for different opinion pieces, analysis, even, going to your local track, going to a NASCAR event, an IndyCar event, what have you. Any opinion pieces from there. That's what we'd love to kick on the content from that. And
I would like to make a quick shout out while we have a little bit of a lull here that if you are new to the page, if you are watching on Twitter, Twitter does not allow us anymore to see viewers or react with comments. So please hop over to YouTube or Facebook to interact with us. Also, right here in the chat, we're going to Twitch next week. Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm glad that Colton brought that up. That was something I totally forgot to put.
Terrible segue on my part.
Yes, absolutely. So we had Twitter buy Periscope a couple months ago, and if you've noticed, you can't really comment on the Twitter feed for us to see it anymore. We can only see the YouTube and Facebook stuff. But StreamYard allows us to go to Twitch and stream as well, and they are fully capable of putting the Twitch comments on stream as well. So we will be swapping our Twitter feed to Twitch to be our third place to where you can go next week. We'll have links and everything before next week's show, and that should just be a smooth transition. It's going to work the same way that we're working with Facebook and YouTube as well. So thanks, Colton, for bringing that up. We will be able to see everything on those three platforms once we get there. So other than that, one of the other things that's going to be on the website, other than the fan interaction that we want to get, is we are going to have a fantasy and esports section. And today I want to specifically announce a partnership with a esports up-and-coming league called the Nostalgia Sim Racing League. And those are some guys that we've been working with. We tried to kind of jumpstart our own series a few months ago. That kind of fizzled out. It turned into this really good community of drivers on iRacing, and we will be facilitating some of their races as sponsorship, but also just partnering them with them in general for race recaps. And we're going to do something really interesting coming up in August when they go live with their Motor City Cup series, and that is going to be, we're basically going to kind of role play being the kind of NASCAR scene for them. It's a series based on the ARCA cars, and so we'll be starting fictionally in a 2002 year and going from there. And all of the racers are going to be able to basically put forth effort into what kind of schedule changes are we going to make and that kind of stuff. And we'll also be doing driver spotlights weekly for some more weekly content on the website as well. And they are going to start with a charity event on June the 11th, and it's going to be called the 5.6 Hour of Le Mans in 2022, and that's going to be the NSR 5.6 because we're going to be kind of looking at the Garage 56 ordeal that Hendrick Motorsports is doing. They're going to be racing on June 11th, and it's going to be the Garage 56 showcase. We're going to have 3 open hours of qualifying that starts at 2:30, green flag at 5:30, and we're going to have 3 classes of NASCAR cars. We're going to have the next gen with 21 cars. You can sign up starting, I think, on the 5th of May. 20 cars for the ARCA series. That's kind of the Gen 4 NASCAR series. And then the Gen 3 1987 cars will have 21 entries in there. That's 62 cars, 2 minimum drivers for each team, and a maximum of 3 for each team. We'll race for 5.6 hours. That's about 5 hours and 35 minutes. And they are going to be doing this charity race for a charity called the Organization of Autism Research. They are going to be doing this for autism awareness. And this charity works with adults that have autism to get them jobs that can accommodate them depending on their accommodation, whether that's a low accommodation needs or high accommodation needs. And they also they also help families and teachers with education on the neurotype and how to accommodate and do things such as speech therapy. And they don't demonize autism like other charities like Autism Speaks do. So it's a really good cause, and it should be fun. We're going to be flinging stock cars down the Mussolini Straight without chicanes at over 200 mile an hour to get to the hairpin. So if you are an iRacing person, send us a tweet, something. We'll have links and everything up on May the 5th, I believe, when we start taking in names. Other than that, that is it. So we're going to go now into some Talladega recap before we get into our kind of meaty part of the episode. And Jared, Colton, we saw 2 races this weekend at Talladega for the National Series, and then we had ARCA. So let's start with that. ARCA was a fantastic race, and we didn't see too many wrecks like we usually see at ARCA in these super speedway races. How did you guys feel about that race?
I liked it. I only got to see I saw a good chunk of it. I was actually helping a buddy move a hot tub towards the end there, so I missed that big pileup that led to the injury, but I did see what would have been the last 9 laps. But of course it was cut short because of officials and TV time restraints. I thought it was a very good race. I was really rooting for my guy Roger there at the end. He was on the front row that last restart. Didn't quite have what it took there at the end. Didn't quite get the runs that he needed. But it is what it is. I feel like if it would have gone the distance, he definitely would have been up in the mix to take that checkered flag. Like you said, Alex, this wasn't the wreck fest that we're used to seeing ARCA at the super speedways. I thought this was a very well managed race by all of the drivers. I thought they did a very good job of managing runs, making sure they were clear before they moved for the most part. Did a good job of staying out of trouble. It was really one of the more entertaining ARCA races that I've seen, especially at a super speedway in quite a while.
Yeah, I'll agree with Colton. I honestly didn't see anything on Saturday. I was at the All-Star Circuit of Champions race at Port Royal, so I kind of just like scoreboard watched, and that's kind of the same thing I did with the Xfinity series also.
All
so
right.
I don't have as much input as
you know
that.
what we'll do is I will talk about the ARCA race, and then we'll share our thoughts about the Xfinity race, and then you can tell us what happened at Port Royal after that.
Okay, that works.
So, hey, ARCA race was fantastic in my opinion at Talladega. We didn't see any bonehead moves until right there at the end, of course, with that big pileup where Tony Breidinger got hooked. I still don't know who to put the blame on. Half the crowd saying that she lifted, half the other crowd is saying the 10 car hooked her. Who knows? You know, it's a racing incident. Was it something that should have been that bad? I don't think so, but it is ARCA. We do have people that aren't hitting the brakes. I do want to shout out Roger Caruth, though. He made a couple of really big, ballsy moves and made them stick. Kind of reminded me of the 2011 Bud Shootout with Kyle Busch making those crazy moves. Not to the same extent, of course, but just making some of those ballsy moves. But I got to say, Nick Sanchez, who left him out to dry, he was making some pretty big moves too. The biggest controversy was after the race, Roger said something about not choosing the line that he chose to restart in if he would have known that they were coming to the next flag ends it situation, and they did
Right.
not let him re-choose. So that was a big no-no for me. So this is not something I think we normally see in ARCA. They're usually pretty consistent with their calls.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with how quick that decision was made to cut the race short if need be. But like you said, and the news did come out that they took the one to go. Everyone, the leaders got to choose which line they wanted to start in. Obviously, they were going to do one of those little teammate, restarts at super speedways where the one pulls down in front of the other. But they didn't tell the drivers that the race was under the circumstance until after they had already chosen, and they didn't let them re-choose, which is, I mean, like you said, that's a big no-no. I would have liked to have seen them at least tack one more pace lap on there. What's that all really going to add to the race? But another minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Yeah, and even in that point, just say we're going to do a green white checker, and that's it. Just don't
Exactly.
even say it's 9 laps or nothing.
Right, exactly. I would have much rather seen that and seen them just cut 6 or 7 laps off of it and make sure they got the field set the way that they wanted to set to produce the best racing. Everyone was setting up that last restart when coming to the choose for 9 laps of racing. Right. And then obviously it was kind of neutered short there at the end, and no one had any know about it until obviously coming to the green.
Right. And then let's talk about the Xfinity race. It was a pretty banger of a race. They started wrecking a lot, and that always irks me towards the end. As you guys know, I don't like wrecking race cars. I like racing race cars, but it was a stand-up race, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was a really good race. I want to shout out that 3 car. Damn, he did good all day, staying out of trouble, staying up towards the front. I was really impressed with Larry Mack on the pit box there. I don't know how many of those calls he made, or how much he really helped that team out. Obviously, it was a little bit, because we've never quite seen that performance out of Jeffrey Earnhardt or the 3 car in quite a while. Happy for Noah Gragson. That was really cool. Shout out to my buddy Jacob, who got to go to Victory Lane and meet Dale Jr. and all them.
Yeah, I thought it was a great race. I think the text that you sent us in the group chat was something like, I really thought that Granddaddy's ghost was piloting him to a win today, because he came up from like 6th or 7th with that last green white checker to finish second. It was pretty wild. Jared, I know you got to see the end of the race. What did you think about that?
I thought that was pretty cool. I did actually see like the highlights of like the last lap and everything that kind of went on through there. Like I thought like, shout out Noah, that was a good win for him. I also thought it would have been cool to see Jeffrey get a win in that 3 car, but I think I'm hoping we could get to see that again. I don't know if they've made any announcements or if there's any rumors going on, but it'd be cool to see him back in Daytona in that 3 car, because I think if you're going to give the Talladega fans that, I think you should let the Daytona fans down there get to see the 3 car race.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, Nathan brought something up because he was a little bit irked that people were saying that he should have a full-time ride and all this other stuff. So I want to start with Jared. We'll go around the table. I mean, what do you think? Was he just too good and he's only been in shit cars, or is this something that we should see a Beard Motorsports in Cup type of deal where we see this 3 car and maybe even Larry Mack for the star factor hitting, these 2 super speedways, or even 3 if you count Atlanta?
This is hard to tell, because I mean, Jeffrey was in bad equipment before, but he was also in some Gibbs equipment for a while too. We have to factor that into the playing field there, and I don't think he had the results with Gibbs whenever Gibbs always has decent results with their drivers. So I think he's more of a guy who, if you focus all your resources and stuff into, like, let's say super speedway races, kind of like what Noah Gragson does with Beard, I think that's something that you could kind of look at. So, maybe just let Jeffrey try to get some sort of deal where Jeffrey races the 3 and the restrictor plate races. And if it's consistent success, like maybe try that next year and then maybe add a couple intermediates there, just kind of go down the line that way and just do it slowly and not just throw him into like a big full-time ride. I mean, like didn't he race in the Cup 32 car for a while too?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was ever full-time, but he definitely did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was full-time or part-time, but I think you just need to slowly ease into something like that. And obviously having Larry Mack, you definitely probably learned a lot there. So let's see the next race, let's get him another race. Let's see how much he learned from him, whether Larry's the crew chief or not. Let's see if he can use that experience he learned from Larry Mack in Talladega, and if he can transition that into the next race. And then, like I said, just keep going on and see how far the potential limit actually is for him.
I want to see him race Daytona in the 3 without Larry Mack. I think that would kind of give us a really good feel as to how much of this race was a one-off and how much was actual skill from Jeffrey. We got to learn that, or we got to know also that race car drivers usually don't come into their prime until at very earliest, their late 20s, early 30s. Of course, exceptions like Jeff Gordon, Joey Logano. He's 32, so I mean he's just now swinging into really the prime of his racing career. So that could be part of it. He could just be maturing a little bit as a driver. But also we've kind of seen him the last few years, like Jared mentioned, in some Gibbs equipment and not really perform all that well. I made the comment, or I think Nate did actually, the Earnhardt effect in our group chat of the 3-car and Earnhardt behind the wheel. Of course, Larry Mack in the on the box. Everyone's going to call for him to get a full-time ride. I'm not on board with that. I'd rather see him get some sort of like Trevor Bayne deal with RCR to where he gets X amount of shots for either this year or the next year and says, all right, let's see what you can do on all types of tracks. You know, if the results are good enough, obviously, yeah, sign him, throw him into a full-time ride. But I don't want to just jump on board and say full-time, absolutely every single week. I want to see him out there just because I don't know that he has it yet. You know, he's shown me otherwise so far.
Yeah, and he's been kind of piddling around with these small teams the whole time. He was full-time in that 33 car. I don't even know what team that was.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Hulu sponsorship. He was in a 32 car. I'm assuming that was still a Go Fast car with a 33. I'm not really sure because it had the same the number 3 font as the Go Fast 32. He's been puttering around with JD Motorsports, and we know JD Motorsports is a good place for people to land if they don't care about winning races. But I don't know that this Earnhardt effect continues if he doesn't perform. And I don't think that he will. I'm in the same boat with you, Nathan, or Colton, and Nathan. And you know, I don't think that he's gonna continuously perform week in and week out. If he's a plate racer, which he certainly showed us on Saturday that he can do plate racing for, you know, just as good as the best of them, I don't see why not. I do think you bring up an interesting point that Larry Mack shouldn't be on the pit box next time, because if we look at the broadcast, they were talking about saving fuel, and a lot of teams did not say anything about saving fuel until near the end of that race, whereas Larry Mack had him shutting off the engine and saving fuel every caution lap that there was since they came in that last time. So that could have been a deciding factor to get him from 28th or wherever he was to up front, was just the fact that you got Larry Mack on there. But also he hasn't been on the pit box for 20 years, so is he really that good on a one-off?
Right. And I'm wondering too with that, like how much Jeffrey learned during this weekend, things like saving fuel every chance you get, like which strategy call, you know, maybe Larry Mack told him a couple times, hey, this is kind of the lane you want to be in here. He does still have experience in this kind of stuff. Granted, yeah, he hasn't been on a pit box in 22 years. So I would really like to see that. And also the Earnhardt effect, Kerry got full-time rides for years, and he never really performed either, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably a good, I don't know, like a safety net for a career having that last name, but I'm not just going to go out and expect results right away.
Well, I'll toss this question to Jared because he's probably more privy to some of this stuff. But Earnhardt gear probably, or Jeffrey Earnhardt gear probably sold a lot this weekend, right? The shirts, the hats, the whatever, bunch of 3 stuff probably showed up to the racetrack. How many times can you capitalize off of that? If he goes full time, I'm saying it's going to be a steep decline. But how many peaks can you get from reiterating this 4 times a year?
If you do, or you mix up the scheme or something for, like, let's say he does let's say he does both Daytonas, both Talladegas or something. You do 4 different schemes or something. I think that'll be able to cap out your. If you do it every so often, if you do it consistently and stuff, like let's say he doesn't get a full-time job, obviously you're gonna have like a big merch increase there, but then it's just gonna slowly decline. Whereas if he races now and then Daytona in August, let's say he races Daytona in August, that's going to sky boost if you do. Let's say he does like a patriotic type scheme, even though it's not 4th of July weekend. Let's just say something like that, some special scheme or like Dale tribute car or something like that. That's something you capitalize. And in the comments, let's say a throwback scheme at Dega. That's something. So mix up the designs, the car sponsorships and stuff, whatever. And I think that's where we get it. But if we do like a full-time type of deal, then I think that's where it's going to start to get old, and it's just not going to be as big of a factor. Whereas if it's more of a 1-off, 2-off, 3-off, 4-off type of deal.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too. And then I think if he only does these super speedway races and we know he's good there and he finishes top 5 each time, even if he doesn't get a win, I think that effect doesn't go away. But if he runs the whole race, doesn't get into any trouble, and he starts finishing 15th, 16th, 20th, I think the Earnhardt effect can only carry him so far. I mean, Dale Jr. had a fantastic career up until 2005, I'll say. And then that lull at Hendrick from 2008 to 2012, he got to carry his statistics to carry that name, not just from his dad, because he had already made a name for himself. Yeah. That's why he was still so popular. Chase has been in a lull for the past 2 years. Let's be honest. 1 win, and he's, whatever. He's carrying that name because he's made himself that name with the Nationwide and the Cup championships. I just don't think that Jeffrey can do that unless he has success.
Right, and how many generations does that name carry down? Obviously a lot of fans know of Dale because of his popularity, but how many fans watching now have ever watched Dale Earnhardt race? My guess is under 40%, probably, if not lower than that.
Yeah, 21 years ago we lost Dale. So there are kids that can drive and consume alcohol that never saw him race, or he raced. His last race was before they were born. So it's an interesting topic to think about because I don't know. But with all that being said, Saturday night was pretty quiet unless you were some of the guys that went across the street to Talladega Short Track for NASCAR. And then, there was some dirt slinging up there in Pennsylvania as well. I think we've all seen the finish because it was one for the ages. Jared, how was it at Port Royal this Saturday night?
It was pretty good. I took my dad up to Port Royal for the second time. We went last year at the fall for the Nittany Showdown, and it wasn't as exciting as I thought. So my dad didn't really get to see real good. I wouldn't say the best dirt race, but then we go to this race. He's standing up watching the race, and he's like, we were watching the heat laps and stuff, and I asked my dad, obviously he doesn't know any of the drivers because this is his second dirt event. He doesn't follow it, so I'm like, who do you got winning? And he's like the 1 or the 39. So we're watching that. The 39 is Anthony Macri, who's right now one of the hottest drivers in Pennsylvania, and he started 6th, and we were just watching him because I told my dad I think the 39 car is going to get this, and it was a 30-lap feature, and Macri made it all the way up to second place with about 20 laps to go, and for a whole 15 laps, those two were maneuvering traffic, swapping leads back and forth. There was lap traffic, lap cars that they were trying to go through. One would go high, one would go low. It was super. It was. I can't even say that anything beats that. That was probably the best dirt race I've ever gotten to see live. And then I go on Twitter seeing the reactions and stuff, and they're all saying it's an early candidate for a race of the year. And I'm like, all right, so I got to witness a really good race. And even towards the end, the last lap, they go, Macri gets the lead. He goes low to take away the low lines because I know that Logan Wagner was always doing the slide job up to turn 2. And the fact that they didn't wreck each other whenever they even said that they could have wrecked each other, that's just the fact that they have that mutual respect racing each other for so long. That was just kind of cool to see the reaction of that. And it was just a really good, hard racing type deal that we got to see. So I'm glad I got to see that. And yeah, I can't even tell you how awesome that was to see.
Yeah, Colton, did you get to see the highlights from Flow Racing and everything?
I saw the highlights, and it just made me mad at Jared because he lives so close to sprint cars.
Right. Me too, man. Because there's nobody comes down here. 410 Sprints do not come down here, and the All-Star Circuit of Champions was going to be at Sanoa, and that night it got rained out, and they didn't do a makeup date. So I'm so mad. I have still yet to see 410 sprint cars.
I'm getting spoiled here because we got some. We got Lincoln Speedway coming up on May 10th that I'm probably going to end up going to. Because here, I'll even give you a little precursor on this. So my training is down in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania, which is a little bit near Harrisburg. And Harrisburg is literally right in the central of where all these sprint cars go. So Lincoln Speedway is a Wednesday night. So I will be going to that race Wednesday night, which is only about an hour from where I'm staying. So if I miss that, then what's wrong with me? So I'm definitely going to be hitting Lincoln. And then the following Friday and Saturday is Williams Grove, which is literally 20 minutes away from where I'm staying. So
a sneak peek for our May the 4th episode. We're going to have from JC Racing Media, Jacob Cummings. He lives up in your neck of the woods. He's son of Danny Cummings, who came on here last year with my dad for the Talladega stories. He is a massive sprint car fan as well. So I am sure you guys will probably be at the same racetracks, and I'm looking forward to hearing all about these Pennsylvania Speed Weeks from the both of y'all. And I think that's next week, isn't it? That is next week. Holy crap! It's almost May the 4th. Man, I am so jealous that you get to see 410 sprints. You just have no idea, because that's the best show on dirt, hands down.
Yep, I still have yet to see a 410 sprint race. I've seen asphalt sprint, whatever those are. I doubt they're 410s because they don't sound near mean enough to be a 410. While we're still on dirt track, did you guys see the wreck at that Talladega short track?
I did not.
If it's the one I'm
off in turns 1 and 2 and went into the parking lot and hit 4 cars.
No, but that doesn't surprise me.
Well,
I actually did not see that.
Yeah, it looked like I don't know if he just lost traction, if something broke or what, but yeah, he slid. You could see him set into the corner, and then he just shot off out of the park, like completely middle of the corner, right into.
Yeah, they don't have walls.
Yeah, no walls.
1, 2, 3, 4.
A bank comes down and about 100 feet, probably not even that, to the parking lot.
Yeah, so there was a race that I worked at, or the track that I worked at down here. I won't name names because fuck that place. They don't have any walls except for on the front straightaway, kind of like Lernerville for you, Jared. I've seen cars go off, and I've seen wrecked cars go off. And one time, one lost a tire. It bounced over the fence that was at the bottom there, hit one of the trucks that was pulling a car, bounced onto another person's race car, and crushed it. And then there was another week that a modified, somehow, some way, the drive shaft came down and it set on top of the drive shaft.
Man.
It completely stood up on top of the drive shaft. That was crazy. Yeah.
Tracks in general with no walls are sketchy, but dirt tracks are especially sketchy with no walls.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I got to see that. I got to see that at Lernerville last year, first ever race. So I got to see 2 flips actually. One, and I don't even remember who the driver was. I think it was a local driver flipped in one of the heat races, and then Sheldon Honshield flipped in turn 3, came back and finished 10th. Oh, that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
All right, so right now, before we get into Sunday's Cup, I do want to take a little ad break and say that we've got some meals from HelloFresh, and these guys are a box that you get with meal planning, and they send it straight to your door. They have a different menu every week, and basically all you do is you buy a meal for 2 people or 4 people. You can get as many as you want. Usually they are in plans for like 3 meals. You could do 5 meals a week, etc. And they send you fresh produce, fresh meat, and all you have to do is throw that stuff in the refrigerator until you're ready to cook it. And they send you these really good looking cards for instructions on telling you how to make the food so you can't mess it up. So we've got 3 of these cards ready to roll for anyone who wants them. So if you are in the comments, we will give one person from Facebook and YouTube each one, and then one person that joins the Discord tonight. We will give, if you want it, just say HelloFresh in the comments from that, and you will receive 1 free box from here from HelloFresh here at FanFuel. So I just want to shout out them. They are extremely good meals. We love the pork sausage tacos, and they come with red cabbage. You put some hot sauce on them, and they are the absolute bomb. 3 tortillas for each person, so you got 3 tacos, and they are filling, flavorful, and just beautiful. They also have pastas, soups, and other dishes that you can just probably think of that you've never heard of. And then also they even have burgers and stuff. We had an old Bay season burger with potato buns a couple weeks ago, and it was the bomb. So if you want that, just remember, just comment on Facebook, YouTube, HelloFresh. We'll send one to each of those places, and then join our Discord. And we will also, if you put HelloFresh in there, we will do that for you as well. I am posting the link for the Discord here in a few minutes, so y'all can do that. Otherwise, let's go ahead and talk about Sunday's race, 500 miles at Talladega. What did you guys think?
That was probably the cleanest Talladega race I've seen. I think I saw the stat. I think that was the most green flag laps to finish a race at Talladega since 2002. And it was interesting to watch because, I'm expecting, like, it was coming down to like 12 to go, and I see they broke out of the train and started going side by side. I'm like, man, they're just going to be here we go. We're going to start the pile up, and we're going to see wreck after wreck after wreck, and it's going to be like 8 o'clock before the race is finally over. But no, we raced the whole way. Everyone raced pretty clean there. We didn't see anyone really make any unnecessary obsessive blocks that takes out the entire field. And I mean, the last lap was the last lap at Talladega, and you kind of expected everything that happened to happen. But shout out Ross, he didn't even do anything. He just held his line and won the race, and kind of a heartbreaker there for Eric Jones. I was really rooting for Eric Jones. I wanted to see him get that 43 in victory and just himself get into victory lane to kind of help boost his career a little bit. I think if he would have stayed on that bottom lane and just hung in there, he definitely would have won, because you saw when Larson went up, he just rammed Kurt Busch into the wall, and that took away all his momentum. But whenever Eric Jones thought he would move up, that just opened the door for Chastain to just hold his line and ultimately just get his win there.
Yeah, I thought this was a really good race. I do like you mentioned, it was the longest green flag run to end a Talladega race in a long time. I mean, we're talking about 20 years, almost 20 years. I do like, if you guys have ever watched a truck broadcast, I call it like the Mikey-isms, where like every 2.5 minutes he says, there's going to be a crash. There's no way they're not going to crash. I really like how the broadcast didn't, rely on that too much to keep the viewers in. They were just calling out great play-by-play, side-by-side racing. I think Junior had a lot to do with that, because Dale Jr. does like to do more play-by-play calls, whereas we've seen in the past Clint Boyer likes to just kind of giggle and huck and talk about how it feels to drive that race car, and doesn't really broadcast it as much. So I really like Dale Jr. in there. Great finish to the race. Again, like Jared said, it's the end of a Talladega race. You're going to see that kind of stuff happen. But all in all, I thought it was really good, especially the last green flag run. I expected it to be a lot more train racing than it actually was.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, that was a bit surprising. I thought after the Daytona race that the next gen was lacking a little bit. I still think we've got progress to be made, but for the second race out on the super speedway, I thought this was very entertaining. There was a lot more passing than I thought there would be after the first stage, because it seemed like those two trains of two wide action were just, kind of like two little bitty caterpillars on the interstate, just trying to go at it. Like, it was just, I'm not going to lie, I was bored out of my mind for that first part of that first stage, because just nobody could partake in a run. And then once we got later on into tire wear and all that other stuff, fuel strategy, green flag, pit stops, I thought it was a great race. I will say one thing. I think that we could do away with stage racing on these super speedways with this package. I think that would help with the variance in fuel and tire wear that would make some more passing happen, especially since Talladega seems to be wearing out actually now. So it only took it 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it 1,000 times on here. I don't care if you keep the stage points, keep the stage racing, so to speak. Get rid of the cautions. Every track, get rid of the cautions. It kills strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What tire wear, Drew? Well, if you listen to the broadcast, they were talking about how the tires were wearing a lot more on Saturday than on Sunday, but they still were having a bit of handling issues toward the end of the runs, I guess, because it got a little bit hot and slick, and they were having more handling issues. So maybe not so much tire wear on Sunday, but definitely they had a lot more to handle with than they did in February at Daytona. So call me out. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. That's what Drew did. So anybody want to keep this going, Colton? So I don't make any more mistakes?
No, we had our beef for the month last week.
Okay. All right. So that was a good race. I will say that. Let's get to the end of the race and let's talk about those last lap moves. Nathan said a lot about Kyle Larson in our group chat, talking about how he's not good at super speedways, X, Y, and Z. Was he in over his head being in third or second, at that point, or is he just making bonehead moves because he's shitty at plate races?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Yeah,
This is a trend this year. We saw it at the Clash. We saw it at Auto Club. We saw it at. I mean, he's doored someone else. I just can't remember exactly where. And we saw it this last weekend. He does not. Whether it's his spotter, we knew at Auto Club that his spotter didn't call the run that Chase had. This time his spotter said he was clear, and he wasn't. So I think that's a spotter issue more than a Kyle issue. But I mean, he is kind of racing over his head recently.
Okay.
I don't know if that's just the champion effect to him, thinks that he's, needs to go out there and win another 10 races this year. I think also it has to do with, like you said, his inexperience at being in the front towards the end of super speedway races. He's never really been in that point before. There was a Daytona 500, I think it was 2017 or 2019, that he had a really good shot to win. But I mean, he's never really been in that spot before. He's never had a top 5 at a super speedway up until this last weekend.
Where you at, Jared? Was he just in over his head?
Yeah,
or?
I'm kind of on that. Like I was seeing on the back road last night. I don't know. There's something like off with Larson this season. It's not like like last year, he kind of had that chip on his shoulder and was out there just dominating, winning races. But this year, it's more like, all right, I'm going to run you up on the fence. I'm going to hit you. You hit me, I'm going to hit you back type of deal. Or I don't even know if he would have just held his line at yesterday, we could have had like a 3-wide finish for the win on Sunday. So I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if that was a spot like Colts. I don't know if that's like a spotter issue or inexperience issue. But the other cool thing I want to point out too is towards the finish of the race. So you look at the guys who finished in the top 10. You had a lot of like inexperienced guys up there. I mean, we had Denny Hamlin had that pit road penalty, so he's out in the back. You had Brad Keselowski wasn't really anywhere to be seen. Joey Logano got taken out early. I mean, you got a lot of guys that aren't your typical super speedway racers up there up front. Like Eric Jones isn't really known to be a super speedway racer. Like we said with Kyle Larson isn't really a super speedway racer. I mean, Ross Chastain's not a big super speedway racer. So that I think maybe that's why maybe it was a little bit more calm as you had those guys up front because they didn't really know what to do or when to make the runs. Because, obviously Denny Hamlin's the one who's going to try to generate the runs there, as you've seen at previous Talladega Daytona races. But with those guys like way back in the field and kind of out of contention, that kind of eliminated that process.
I just posted in the group chat here real quick. You bring up a good point. That is 2 missed calls by a spotter this season thus far. If you look at Auto Club, where a spotter failed to call the run, and then Talladega, obviously, where a spotter cleared him when he wasn't clear. We're a quarter of the way through 2022. Do you guys think this affects the rest of the season at all?
I don't know. That's kind of hard. He's got to win, right? So he's probably in.
He's in the playoffs, but I mean, the playoffs is a little more than a quarter of the season as well.
I don't know. That we're gonna have to. I guess we're just gonna have to see what kind of trends and stuff happen because, like, this could also be a situation too where he's just screwing around the whole regular season and just wins 5 out of the 10 races in the the playoffs. So
Yeah, I mean, we don't really have those summer sessions anymore, right? We don't. We always talk about how we used to love the summer season. We don't really have that anymore. We're gonna have more road courses. We're gonna have more tracks that we're not going to in the chase because we've already kind of blew past all the ones that we're going to be in the chase, other than Kansas. I don't really know. I mean, if he does come back in the summer, yay! But he could still miss it if he misses at the same tracks. But he'll also have
So
practice. I don't know. The spotter and him have time to mesh. They have 13, 15 races, right?
well, yeah, they've still got time, but if I'm Larson, I'm also trying to run a couple Xfinity races with a new spotter to see, just because I feel like that could be a major issue if it's not addressed right now.
Right.
Okay. That's not just those 2 times, not even counting the clash where his spotter failed to communicate that the 24 shoved Justin Haley into him and he took out Haley. This seems to be, for the defending champion, a missed line of communication here. But he is still Kyle Larson. I still think he will get it done.
So we see on I don't remember. I think it was the Auto Club edition of DBC. I think they said that you can't come out as a spotter and out yourself as my bad because you'll lose your job. This is the same guy that took him to a championship last year, won 10 races with him last year. I don't know where the mesh is not, the mesh is not happening this year. I don't know what's going on. It can't be because of the next gen car because it's not too dissimilar from the last car. If anything, the speedway races should be easier to spot because the runs aren't nearly as deep as they were. Not saying that it's not still the hardest discipline for spotters, but you look at Auto Club, that chase incident is not something that should have happened. So I'm not sure. I don't know if it's a 3 strikes you're out type of deal at Hendrick, and we just haven't had enough of a hard thing for a strike or whatnot. But I'm not really sure. I don't know where this leads for him for the future. We'll have to see.
Yeah, and there is a good point before we segue in. Drew in the comments, lovely Drew, every week. He said, I can't remember where it was, but I was reading somewhere. Someone was commenting how bad he dominated races that he won last year. He didn't have to do much hard racing. Not sure if I bought it, but it was out there that a spotter wasn't really having to do a whole lot last year.
Right. And well, go ahead and then I'll say this one right here. Y'all remember this spotter was not the first choice either. I'm gonna say this, and I know that out of all of us, kiss ass with Rick Ware Racing the most. But this was a Rick Ware Racing spotter.
Right.
He did not have to do hard racing. And let's be honest, the Rick Ware cars don't get out of the way of the leaders. So they don't essentially, I think they're not looking too far back on the racetrack. So if they can't look that far back, are they really looking that far forward? Because the spotter, those are 2 great comments. The spotter themselves has not had to race people, not to mention Larson not having anything because he's doing dominant stuff. So that is very good points from Drew. Yeah.
I think Larson can do it. I think there's a miscommunication with the spotter there. Is more what it boils down to.
Agreed.
Yeah. Just a quick point I did want to bring up there because I noticed a trend the last few weeks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that, let's go ahead and get into it. Colton, you can start us off. This was your idea.
So I wanted to highlight, it's no secret, we shit on NASCAR quite a bit. Last season, we were terrible about it, especially the first part of this season. We have been trying to kind of clean it up a little bit and not just completely shit all over the sport that we love. So I wanted to take an episode to highlight some of the really good things and good changes that NASCAR has implemented over the last couple of decades, just because that's where the majority of the changes have come from. The time frame. I'm going to kick it off. Alex, I think this was yours, but it's probably my favorite, is the choose cone. I really love that choose cone.
Yeah.
We've been calling for it. Local short track fans have been calling for it for absolutely years. And they did finally in 2020 put the V on the track to let drivers choose the lane that they wanted to. Love it.
Right. So I would say the evolution of getting there is amazing. I love the fact that we went to not run into the caution because of the 2003 New Hampshire race. Then we go to lucky dogs and stuff like that. I love all the restart rules. The evolution is fantastic. But we saw as we formulated more years under the double file restart just how terrible it really was, because it was putting half the drivers at a worse subset of circumstances than the other half. And with this choose cone, I think is by far my favorite rule that NASCAR has put in the last 20 years. They have allowed crew members or crew chiefs, spotters, and drivers to say, all right, well, we know that the outside at, we'll say, Martinsville is going to lose us 6 spots on average. But if we can get a good restart, the top 3 went to the bottom, we can just pass, 1 or 2 of those guys rather than losing, with a risk of losing 6. It gives a risk reward, and we've seen a bunch of shuffling that used to happen on pit road happen on the racetrack in a race condition, so we don't have anything bad on pit road. That was mine. I will go ahead and shout out Nathan. He is really big, even though that they took away his July date for Daytona. He loves Road America. He says it's his favorite track in the country, one of the best tracks in the world. It's a spectacular environment. There's walking trails across the whole property, that kind of stuff. And then what more patriotic way to celebrate July 4th than going to a track that has America right in the name. Very classic, and we hope to see that coming back for years to come as our new tradition. All right, Jared, what's your first one?
I'll go with the doubleheader at Pocono. This is maybe biased, but I think that the doubleheader was a huge success for NASCAR, especially at Pocono, where a lot of people don't like Pocono, whether it's watching on TV or the racing product itself. But from the fan aspect of it, whenever they used to race Pocono, it would always be like early June, early August. And that's only like about a month and a half's gap right there between the two races. And, you'll have your families choose, do we want to go to the June date or do we want to go to the August date? Well, they put it right at the end of July, like towards the second, I think it's like the second to last week in July. So make it a doubleheader event, and you have all these people decide, all right, they're racing at Pocono this weekend. Let's just take all our camping. Let's take our vacations now. And there's just such a big crowd there. I think there was more people at the truck race than I've never seen a truck race that packed at Pocono before. So from the fan aspect, I think that was pretty cool. I mean, for me as a fan, I got to explore more of Pocono than I ever have, just because there's just so many different things to do. I mean, you have a Xfinity race, Cup race, you have a truck race, Cup race. So it just really made for a pretty fun weekend for the fans. And I think there's probably a lot of other fans out there that's going to miss that moving forward because they will not be doing the doubleheader. But I think it was something cool to at least try for the fans. I know it probably had to do with like the Olympics that year and all the scheduling stuff. But either way, that was a great idea for them, and especially for that track, since they already lost their second date, they might as well just, all right, let's just do one big doubleheader weekend and see how that goes. And I think it was pretty successful. Got to see 2 really good races, and fan experience was beyond awesome for me.
So I do have to ask. They got rid of this for the Gateway race. We've all been wanting Gateway to come on the schedule. It's basically flat Darlington. It's a really big market for NASCAR racing in general. But how do they not return to Pocono? I don't know what kind of contracts and stuff they are, but what's 36 events versus 37 races?
Yeah, especially if you're already there that weekend, just run it.
Yeah.
And I like the idea how they inverted the top 20 for the second day, so that saved some time from practice qualifying and stuff.
It made us at home interested in Pocono as a whole. I know I love Pocono. It's a racer's track. Most old school NASCAR fans do, but it made more fans interested in these 2 races just because. So I don't see why NASCAR doesn't do this every year, maybe at 2 or 3 tracks, and just rotate the dates.
Yeah, like at least try the doubleheader weekends for the fans. I mean, granted, like practice is somewhat back and qualifying's back and stuff, but like if you're gonna, like before that, when we didn't know that was gonna be back, if you're gonna take away practice and qualifying, you might as well just have a doubleheader weekend and I mean, we did get to see that at like Michigan and I think, was it Dover that they also did that during COVID, even though there wasn't fans. We saw some doubleheader weekends. Like, if you're a true NASCAR fan, you're gonna enjoy doubleheader weekends. Like, I'm good with doubleheader weekends every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like it. It kind of revamped Pocono for a little bit. We did see a lull in some of the races there, especially when stages got brought on. It kind of killed some of the strategy out of Pocono. I do want to shout out Keith Merrick. Pocono is perfect. Keith, long time no see. Keith has been on our show twice. He's one of our biggest supporters, one of our best fans, along with Drew. Don't want to leave you hanging there, Drew. But Keith, it's good to see you back. Glad to talk to you again, buddy.
I think I might be seeing him at Dover this weekend.
You might be. It's
He's
right
going
next
down.
to him there. He said top 3 race weekend for me ever, and he's been to a lot of races. We talk about a dude who's been to like I think over a third of the tracks. The Pocono doubleheader is awesome. What it showed us is that doubleheaders can work. And talk about bang for your buck as a NASCAR fan. You get to go to a weekend. You're not spending all this time sitting around waiting for practice, waiting for qualifying. You get to see 2 cup races. Plus, there's also all those subdivisions there, the truck and the Xfinity. It is a
ARCA that weekend too.
And ARCA, yeah. Yes, sir. You will see him at Dover. That is awesome. You need to get a picture with him.
I will. I'll find him. I'll find him somewhere.
Yeah.
I do want to shout this out one more time, though. Imagine with our practice and qualifying schedules now, that's 2-hour blocks for practice and qualifying for each series. Imagine the fan experience if we have all 5 series, including ARCA there, and it's a track with lights. Let's say Kansas, for example. Imagine being able to go to Kansas, see a cup race at night, and then during the day, the next day, something like that, where maybe or vice versa, a day race on Saturday with Xfinity at night, trucks in the afternoon, and then a Sunday night NASCAR Cup Series race, and then a Friday night ARCA race where you've got 2 hours for practice and qualifying for each of those series. How do you not sell that ticket? Like, come on. That is the one thing that I think they did and they should do for at least one SMI, one ISC, and Pocono every year from next year on out. I think that would be badass. Yeah, and we get 3 more points races before we went to the playoffs. So it's a win for everyone. So glad you brought that up, Jared.
Yeah. Plus, it's not like they're using different cars because everyone, unless you wrecked, they use the same exact car that they ran before. So it's not like you're losing money on like building a car or anything. I mean, yeah, you're going to spend money on tires and stuff. But still, like you're not
same engine, so same car,
engine,
or
same
they
chassis,
had to go to the back.
everything. Yeah. Like it can work. It's just a factor if you want to make it work. And they weren't even ridiculously long races. They were like 325 miles and like perfect
350
length
on Sunday.
Yeah.
For my next one, I do have, for as much as we shit on stages, I love stage points. Being a Blaney fan, especially like 2017, 2018, I saw him dominate a lot of races and then lose it at the end. Over time, we talk about 2008 Richmond with Denny Hamlin. Completely dominated that race. I would have loved to see him get another 20 points out of it. It gives some drivers something to show for the day that they've had if they don't get the checkered flag or if they don't finish top 5. I hate comparing NASCAR to other sports, but in every other sport, you can rack up a lead and kind of coast. You can't do that in NASCAR because one late race caution, either it's going to jumble the field back up anyway, but also you have to either pick between pitting or not pitting, either losing track position and getting tires or staying out and just getting run over by everyone behind you. So I do love it. There is something to show for the drivers if they do have a really dominant day but just don't quite get it done at the end for whatever reason.
Yeah, and for me, if you've been following with us every 6 races, so here in a couple weeks, I've been putting up a new system that I call the new Latford system. It's a part of our What If series on the article side of things. And I think that NASCAR isn't doing enough with the stages. I don't think they weigh enough. They're maybe weigh a little bit too much now because I think if they just made a little bit more for winning a stage, we would see battles for the stage ends much better. And I think they should be making more weight for the races as well. But these stages, they've done their job, but in their execution, they have rolled back strategy. And I think that's a lot of us old school fans, what we don't like. about them.
Put some money on the line or something, or at least say there's some money on the line. Be like, oh, $500 to the $1,000 for the stage winner or something. I don't know, just to make it at least make it for us, the fans, like, oh, they're racing for something rather than a playoff point and 10 points in the standings.
Yeah. I think a 1 point difference is a little too little to be racing that hard for a stage win. But I do like that they're still giving out points. There is still something to race for, even if it's just a top 10 spot. And it would, if we saw no cautions for the stages, it would throw a huge wrench in strategy. We'd see guys only battle for stage wins, and we'd see guys lay back, miss out on those stage points, and just go for the race win.
Right, and that's what happened in 2017, right? Everybody was just going for race wins because stages were new, and the 78 car of Martin Truex Jr. racked up ungodly amount of stage points. He basically weighed himself into Homestead before the playoffs started. I think he had probably 20 over the rest of the guys because he was getting so many stage points for that stuff. So stages do matter a lot. I think the playoff point is very valuable, and it's going to be interesting to see this year, as much of just a round table as it's been of who's dominating races, that the playoff points that they're paying for stages, if somebody, really wants to, I think without getting race wins, they could gain more of an advantage this season, with as chaotic as the race finishes have been, from those stage points for that playoff, for that one playoff point. If they go out here and win every stage for the next 6 weeks, they probably jump a William Byron who's already got 2 wins, or a Ross that's already got 2 wins. And
yeah, Keith says stages are fantastic. I like the stage breaks on certain tracks, eliminate them on speedways and road courses. I'm fine with getting rid of them everywhere, but if we're going to start somewhere, definitely super speedways and road courses.
All right. Well, yeah, and we spent a little bit more time than I guess we wanted to on that. But I will say something for my next thing. I really want to congratulate NASCAR for what they've been doing with the schedule. I think that we had a schedule that some of us, like myself, didn't mind going to 9.5 every year, because I thought the racing was pretty awesome at them, especially during the COT era where we had the massive power and they could race each other well. A lot of fans got that boring. But right now, our schedule is so diverse. So diverse, even I've said we don't even need playoffs anymore because we've got so many different track types. SMI has done a great job with bringing us the Roval and the dirt track at Bristol as being 2 really massive wild cards. But you add our super speedway races, we've got 5 now, which is a little bit lighter short tracks. We've got 5 different mile tracks, and all of them are different bankings. I'm counting Darlington in this, who's got 2 races actually. Dover, we've got New Hampshire now. Phoenix has got 2 races, and then Gateway now. The schedule is so diverse that it is phenomenal. We're going into new markets with the Road America race. We've got PIR, Portland International Raceway, for the Xfinity Series. NASCAR is reaching all these new markets, and I love it. And like Jared said, we got the Clash. So Jared, you can go ahead and take over for that.
Do you want me to expand on that, or just move to that?
Yeah, just expand on the Clash.
Oh yeah, the Clash this year. I really enjoyed seeing something different. I mean, how many times can you say that? Oh, I just watched a NASCAR Cup race inside a football stadium in Los Angeles. Yeah, it kind of sucked for the drivers and the teams to drive the whole way out there before going back and then down to Daytona. But still, you showed that it was successful, that you can do something like that. So maybe we start seeing different events with maybe they're going to go to Chicago or something, do an inside fit, or do some sort of stadium series and just start racing in Denver Stadium. Put a field in there. That'd be a good market, right, Colton?
So, and that's interesting because they used to have IndyCar and kart races there, but that died off very quickly. So I don't know that racing is something that, those kind of fans in that Denver area are going to want. And also,
that's still
LA. Up there. Well, I mean, I guess you're right, but also we'd have to worry about the engines and stuff too, right? Because they're going to be pushing less power at a mile high, right?
You could get around that. NHRA does it, but you got to look at the population difference of LA and Denver. Denver has roughly 3 million people in the city. LA is pushing 20 million if you count all the metro areas around it.
Damn.
I think that plays a huge role into it. I mean, if we really expand Denver, we could call it 4 million. But I mean, we're talking about 5 times the people. This isn't the time to get into Denver for a race.
I think, honestly, I don't know how well that is going to work in other stadiums because there's so much more field size for the LA Coliseum.
Right.
And I would love to see that be its own thing. I am to the point where what we're doing with the schedule now is like, oh, okay, well maybe we need to scale back some of these double dates and just go to racetracks once, because it seems like the more unique the event, the more people want to go. And that's what we see with the Roval and with the dirt race. Like, they're still going to those 2 places, but they're completely different layouts. And I would love to see something like that done. We've talked about it with Keith on here. Indianapolis, let's have the Brickyard and the road course on 2 separate dates. If we want to keep going down this road, take away a second date from maybe a. All right, Drew. We don't want to talk about Texas, okay? I want to get rid of the All-Star race and have them only have 1 date, but for some reason, the only thing that I'd love to see from the All-Star race, if we did another stadium race, is that should be the All-Star race, hands down. Like, get rid of Texas as the All-Star race. All-Star race doesn't mean jack shit, and it hasn't since the last time it was in Charlotte. Anyway, another comment that Drew had on here. I don't think safety improvements can be understated either. This is one thing that we've talked a lot. I know Nathan really has been on the forefront of our conversation for safety in the sport. These cars are safe. They are very safe. Compared to what we have. We've got the safer barrier. We've paved areas in the grass because of, Kyle Busch's wreck. Jeff Gordon hitting the back wall at Las Vegas led to safer barriers on the inside of racetracks. We've seen a lot of different stuff. And then, with the next gen car, we might have seen some of this roll back a little bit. And I think that's what Drew was mentioning with Bubba. I know that we talked about it significantly with the rumors of test dummies dying and stuff, but I think Nathan said it best, that these cars are a lot more rigid, so they're still safe, but it hurts a little bit more, if that makes any sense. But yeah, safety is definitely something across the board that we've seen. So what else do you guys got? Because I think I'm capped out. I wanted to hit those couple of points.
I'll hit the advertising aspect that NASCAR's done.
Okay.
Like, this year I have how many? Okay, let's do this. How many commercials do you remember seeing for like the Sprint Unlimited or the Bud Shootout or whatever before this season at the Clash? Like, do you really remember any them pushing commercials in your face like as much?
Pre 2008, there was quite a bit.
Okay, yeah. Let's just say like recent years.
Between 2008 and this last year, little to none.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I'll just say like in the past 10 years or so, like the Clash was, I think, really like advertised this year, because I know like a bunch of my football friends were like, whenever they saw that ad on football games, like they're racing NASCAR in a football stadium, that generated some talk, and I really think that even the talk of that had people tune into that race, and they might have enjoyed it, may not have enjoyed it, but it definitely generated a lot of conversations throughout the communities with us and the football communities, because like I said, they were talking. I know some guys who don't even watch NASCAR, and they're racing in a football stadium. I'd get texted like, yeah, they're going to try something new this year. So whether or not you like the idea, hate the idea, I think that was definitely really good advertising. And even throughout the season, you're always seeing advertising for like the next race. Like, there's Darlington advertising out there already, and I really think that the advertising has helped in a way, just because, like what Keith's saying, viewership is statistically up this year, like significantly over the past couple of years. So I think the marketing aspect and advertising has definitely played a huge factor into the ratings. I think it's only, even like with how bad Fox's coverage that we say it is, like people are still tuning in and watching NASCAR week in and week out, and the numbers back that up. I mean, how many weekends has NASCAR done better than other professional sports that are going on, like the NBA playoffs or golf or all those things on Sundays that people would normally watch that weekend, or even the weekend events itself. Like they're always up there in the top 2 or top 3, if not the first. Yes.
Yeah. So, ironically, Keith, we were actually talking about that in our private chat. So I'll go ahead and say, race day is back. Fox, I would love to say that you guys have been doing phenomenal all year, but you haven't, and you haven't. And I want to appreciate you guys. You listened to us. You changed everything. This weekend's pre-race coverage was back to the stuff that wasn't hokey, that wasn't, trying to be comedy, that was genuine coverage of racing. And the only thing that we saw was a little bit hokey was the stuff we expected. Talladega Boulevard with Bob, we knew that we were going to get that because Bob is a GM and Talladega Boulevard's crazy. And you guys have the Wendy's sponsorship, so of course you're going to have Wendy's driver Noah Gragson handing out burgers. We know that. And you got Mikey. So, I mean, we all expected that. But it was just what we expected, not this ridiculous, staunchly just disgusting wannabe comedy show that you've been trying to push for the last 10 weeks. And you fixed it. Hell yeah, Fox. You fixed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think moving forward too, if the fans see that track like that's back, you're gonna have a lot more people at the track, like, kind of revert back to that. Because whenever I was a kid and I saw that, whenever I'd go to Pocono, it'd be like the first thing I wanted to do whenever we always got pit passes, so that's where race day was always in the infield. So like that was always the first thing that I wanted to do as soon as we got a pit road. I'm like, let's go to race day at 10 a.m. Let's see what's going on. And I think that since that's back now, I think a lot of fans are going to start going back to see that in person. I think even like what we've seen the fans around there now, I think there was a good amount of people that showed up to watch that. So I'm glad that is back because it gives you that nostalgic feel. And I think they definitely got a win on that.
Yeah.
And they were into it too, man.
Yeah, that is really great to see. Like Drew said, Fox has been listening lately. We saw Fox get lit up on Twitter for showing way too many kids on the broadcast, and they immediately cut that out a couple weeks later. They brought race day back to more informative. Granted, still a little bit of a comedy show, but to be expected. I love that it's back at the track. The only thing that I would hope to improve on with race day is bring all of the crew out, bring Jamie McMurray out, and just let them do race day like Kyle Petty and Kenny Wallace used to do. But again, I'm nitpicking here at this point. It's been immensely better. Like Jared said, the advertising has worked. He said viewership has been up lately. That's because of promoting. It's not because the next gen car has created that much positive buzz. It's just because NASCAR is promoting itself again. Alex said in the private chat here, we have drivers and commercials again, something we really missed out on for a good 10-year span there. Other than the one-off Mobile One and, Busch beer commercials with Kevin Harvick. It is really great to see more drivers in the commercials because as a kid, one of the best things about NASCAR races was the commercials with all the drivers in them.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of them. Ryan Blaney and Joe Logano, Shell and Advanced Auto Parts coming together for one commercial with both of their race car drivers in it from Team Penske. Yeah. Perfect example. I mean, we saw the PJs with Denny last year coming back. I think that was a catalyst to get us back. Toyota has a pretty banger commercial about the veterans in their camp with Truex, Busch, and Hamlin. I mean, we're seeing a lot more faces in other places, and it's not just during NASCAR broadcast too, which is the best thing that I can say. So that's.
I'll also even shout out like the social media marketing. I'm on social media like TikTok, Instagram, and all those things. I think even like their marketing on their social media pages and just like making memes out of throughout the races and stuff. Like you're hitting a different audience compared to like people like us, but you're definitely hitting those like younger audience. Like something I saw on TikTok on the NASCAR page is like they were doing different things showing how the banking on Talladega. So it's still kind of informative, but it's also kind of funny and it helps like the younger generation kind of understand. Like one was like, can you solve a Rubik's cube if you slide it down Talladega's banking? And they just did a video of them rolling a Rubik's cube down, and it cut to the Rubik's cube like already done. So like little things like that definitely piques the interest of like the younger fans that are on social media. They're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I kind of want to tune into this race because of how I want to see that banking with cars on it. Like just little things like that with social media marketing. I think NASCAR's marketing has really done a phenomenal job over the past couple of years, and like everything that you guys said's on spot, and marketing's working.
Yeah, and their TikTok page is actually pretty good. They're using sounds, and if you're on TikTok, sounds are something that basically it goes viral and people use it, and then they do kind of like a skit-ish type deal, whether it's unique or in a trend. And they've been doing that with race finishes and stuff. I saw one for the Bristol race finish, and this past week when Ross won, they even rolled a watermelon down the Talladega banking, which I thought was hilarious. So they are definitely on top of it on TikTok. Some of the teams and networks have been putting out pretty nice looking, professional looking graphics. I know last week I threw up the one from NASCAR on NBC, and they did the one with the Dale Jarrett thing, making him look like a complete badass. But we're talking about in our group text today the Xfinity drivers for the number 88 Junior Motorsports with the 3 Cup guys. Just beautiful graphics coming out, and there's no way to get someone than showing them something that's going to catch their eye. So I think all across the board, not just NASCAR, all of the teams, all of the guys that are producing stuff for NASCAR, they're hitting it hard, and they're doing it a lot better than they have the past 5 years.
Yeah, I can vouch for that as a graphic designer. It's definitely been nice to see stuff like that, and even like I feel like the last couple years we've started to see more like race day graphics or something, and you have something cool. Like Stuart Haas does a really good job. If you follow their social media page, I think they just recently did like a scheme reveal or something for their for this upcoming race, or I think it was like a wallpaper Wednesday or something, and it had like the front of the cars and it had the Dover Monster in the background. But if you go check out Stuart Haas's page, they always come up with really good graphics week in and week out to kind of get you hyped up for the race. And that's like Alex said, that really, if you put out there something that looks really cool that catches your eye, you're gonna get hooked from that. And like I said, I can vouch for that as a graphic designer, so that's pretty cool to see from that aspect of marketing.
Yeah, so I mean, NASCAR has done a lot of stuff right in the past 2 decades, even though we've shat on them for so long as a part of this podcast. We do still love the sport. We wanted to make that known kind of tonight because we call them out when they do some really just bullshit. Let's not even sugarcoat it. There's a lot to improve, but there's a lot that has improved, and there's a lot that is going good for the sport. And we do love the sport. It is a part of our lives. If it wasn't, we wouldn't be passionate enough to make a podcast out of it. But I think that is where we will live for tonight. I do want to again reiterate that we do have the Discord that has just been created. We put it in the comments on Facebook and YouTube. We'll put that back on all of our social platforms for tonight. We've got the website coming next week. Check out our partnership with NSR. We'll have some links up with that within the next week for the iRacing stuff. And then for the last couple of months, I will say this: I've been not on my game, and I kind of handle all of our backlog and stuff for our podcast to be put on streaming services. They are coming out every day until we're caught up for the next few days, until next Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and everything else under the sun that we have our podcasts on at 7 p.m. So we'll be catching up nightly with our weekly podcasts on your favorite streaming service. We will also be starting to do some stuff that my dad got for some Fast 10, with Fan Fuel at Speed Weeks in February from the dirt track at Volusia in East Bay with some of the guys from the Dirt Late Model Sprint Car Worlds. So be looking out for that. We'll probably be posting those on Facebook and Twitter, and we might even sneak into a TikTok. I'm not sure yet on how to go about that, but we might be sneaking in TikTok with that as well. All that stuff's already on our YouTube, but we'll be posting it around the same time, about 7:30 each night, starting in probably Friday. So that's where we're at. Go ahead and be a part of the action at fanfuelmotorsports.com. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Fan Fuel MSM, capital F, capital MFM. Hit us up at the Fan Fuel Discord, the Fan Fuel Pitbox, discord.gg/ all those letters and numbers that are scrolling currently under Jared Bakaisa right now. Come be a part of the action over there. We really look forward to creating our community a space to connect outside of just every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Other than that, it's been a hell of a show tonight, guys. Anything you want to say before we send her off?
If you're going to Dover, hit me up.
At PKJared9 on Twitter. Hit this man up on Facebook. Jared
I will not be hard to find. 10 times out of 10, I'm probably going to be wearing a blue Kyle Busch Crunchy Cookie t-shirt and probably a unnecessarily bright yellow hat just to stick out and show that I am a M&M's fan. So you'll find me around. You'll find me around somewhere.
You might find Keith Merrick out there as too. So thanks for him and Drew Mason providing a lot of content for us tonight. Colton, you got anything before we shut her down?
Go to your local short track. It is warming up. Short track season has started or is just about to start. Go to your local short track. Go see a late model race. Go see a modified race. Sprint cars. I don't care. Go to your local short track. Support it.
And then go to the Fan Fuel Pit Box. Tell your fellow gas heads about it. Let us know exactly what you saw, how it went, or where you're going so we can connect with you over there. And you can connect with other fans too. Remember, log into the Discord. It's going to be hella good. Late model show Saturday at THR Ditch. What the hell is that?
I think it's the Ditch.
Ditch.
That's got to be his local track. Yeah. Whatever your local track is, tell us about it.
Whatever that is.
Go to it. Hop on the Discord. Tell us about it. I will be going to Colorado National Speedway on May the 7th for their second night of racing. It's going to be a blast. I'm going to tell you guys all about it. I'm a huge fan of it. Go see some pro trucks, super modifieds. Riverside Speedway is what he's saying.
Riverside Speedway is the Ditch. So there you go. You guys learned something
Let's
that you'll
get it.
learn on the Fan Fuel Pit Box. You go to the local zone there, you'll see, hey, come to Riverside Speedway. We call it the Ditch. There you go. We'll love to see you over there. We'll love to see you next week at 7:30 on the dot Wednesday. And hopefully Nathan will be done with his final exams. Good luck if you're not, Nathan. And we'll see you then. All right. Bye.